Okay. Wow, there's a lot of you in this room. When I came in the room, it was mostly empty. I sat up here so I wouldn't get nervous, and then I stand up here, and there's a lot of you in this room. Yesha, thank you so much. I would like to thank you all for attending today. This is a big event for W3C in Israel, and I'm honored to be able to speak to this body, and I appreciate all the work the team's done to hopefully make this a great day for you. Pretty short presentation, only 4 topics. How many people in here actually know what W3C is and what we do? Wow, I'm totally impressed. That's more than I get in most other audiences, so this will be a brief review for those of you that know us, and an introduction for those of you that don't. Then I'm going to talk about how the web is changing your world. This might be old news to those of you in the room. If you're in the web business and you don't think it's changing the world, then you've got to wonder why you're in that business. But we'll talk a little bit about that. Then I'm going to talk about this notion of an open web platform. And that involves more than just HTML5. It involves everything that goes into making those applications rich and giving you a platform to do that on. And then last but not least, a little commercial about why you should join. My job is business development, so if I don't do a commercial, my boss shoots me. And so that's how we'll kind of make this presentation go. And I've got a timer in Hebrew, so I'm going to choose to ignore her. If she can get it translated, that's a good thing. The World Wide Web Consortium. Our objective, why we wake up every day, is to bring the web to its full potential. We were formed, Tim Berners-Lee, that's the gentleman on the picture, created the web in 1989 when he was a researcher at CERN in Switzerland. In 1994, he decided that the web needed to be made available to the world. He chose to not turn it into a product and charge you for it, but rather to form the World Wide Web Consortium. It was formed at MIT back then, and since then we've grown. We now have 350 members worldwide. 70 of those are people that we call full members. Full members are the biggest of the big companies. People like Google, people like IBM, people like Microsoft. The rest are smaller companies, researchers, academics, or government. So quite the broad cross-section of companies. It's all about the web ecosystem. It's about the developers that are in the room. It's about the people that use the web and making sure that it's usable for them. It's the browser vendors. It's a very rare event to be able to get the major browser vendors all in the same room to talk about how they're going to collaborate to bring you things like HTML5 and have it be the same experience regardless of what browser you're on. They like to compete. We have convinced them that competing around the platform isn't the right place to compete. We have over 60 people in our staff globally that report directly to W3C, and that's either I'm out of the MIT office. This is a little bit of a Boston accent you're hearing. Bernard is out of our Ursum office, which is in France, outside of Nice, and then we have a third office located in Tokyo. But in addition to that, our 65 people cannot reach around the world and cover the entire breadth that we have. So there's an office structure of which W3C Israel is one of our leading offices of 20 offices around the world. And they are associated with things like ISOC Israel to be the local voice of W3C. And I heard Yesha mention W3C lots of times, so I'm assuming he's saying good things about it and the work they're doing. Mostly good things, okay. And occasional insults, okay. So what is it? Well, the Boston Globe did a survey or a report recently around the 150 things that MIT brought to the world. Out of those 150 things, the W3C was rated #1. We're pretty proud of that fact because MIT is a pretty prestigious organization. And with all their history, for us to be declared the #1 thing that's happened out of MIT is really something to be proud of. How do we work? We accept inputs from anybody and provide our output generally to the public. There are a lot of public mailing lists you can have where you can see what's going on in W3C. If you're working on an application and you find something where the standard isn't working the way you want, you can provide us that input, and we will take that input into the process. We focus on standards that you can use. Writing standards that are nice and esoteric and that nobody ever implements is an incredible waste of time. We don't want to do that. We have people in the research world that would like us to do that, but we don't want to do that. We want things that you can actually use. And we've got a pretty good track record. We've been making the web. When you talk to Tim, and he's very involved on a day-to-day basis, and you say, every once in a while I ask him this question. I say, Tim, how close are we to done with the web? And when he's in a wildly optimistic mood, he'll say, 40%. And when he's in a not so optimistic mood, he'll go, 30%. And that's because this guy's brain works at incredible speeds. And while we think we've covered all this territory, he's thinking about things that we should be doing out here. So there's no end to the work in sight for us and for you, for opportunity. And we have over 50 working groups. A working group is where the work is actually done by our members. We don't do our staff doesn't do the work, you do the work, we help you do that work. You bring your own expertise. We have we break the work out into 4 domains. Accessibility is a huge domain. We think the web should be available to all regardless of what their situation is, regardless of where they live, regardless of what language they speak. We work under a royalty-free patent policy. That's important for you as you're deploying applications. You can know that you can use a W3C standard and not have to worry about a royalty payment. And if you're a small company, I would suggest that if IBM and Google and Microsoft and Apple can get around our royalty policy, then you should be able to. It's not that tough. We have liaisons. If we do work that we think belongs somewhere else, we take it somewhere else. IETF, OMG, whatever the association is. We have over 45 groups that we work with on a daily basis. And it's a positive experience with all those groups. And we are an ISO PAS submitter in that regard. So how is the web changing your world? We would propose that the web has changed everything over the past few years. Long ago and far away, when I was early in this industry, you were lucky if you had a mainframe with a green screen tube in front of you. And that was state of the art. They moved from that to where people actually had desktop computers that were about the size of this desk. And that was kind of cool. Now it's moved so that the web showed up and everything is webized and everything is available on the web. And the first web applications were screen scrapers of those 3270 devices. And we've moved from that to having experiences that were designed just for the web. We would propose that that's going to all happen again and faster. People like those of you in the room are writing applications today that are designed not for this laptop, but for a handheld device or a tablet or for some device that doesn't even have a browser on it. The beauty of HTML5 is you don't need a browser to run it. You can have a browserless application. So let's talk about a few of those industries and how we're affecting them. Does anybody in this room have only one mobile device? A few of you. Okay, most of you have more than one. When I first did this presentation, I said, who doesn't have a mobile device? And nobody raised their hand, so I thought I would change the question to who has only one. We recently had an event in Hollywood for web and TV, for those of you that are in that industry. And for our events, we'd like everybody to have access to Wi-Fi. We had 300 people attending that event. 150 people attending that event. So we said, we'll set up 250 IP addresses. And we ran out. So we raised it up to 500, and we ran out. And then we had to make an announcement that says, please keep it to only 2. So mobile's happening. We believe the Open Web Platform is a new mobile web operating system. Why? Because handheld devices are ubiquitous. As I just talked about, everybody's got them, and they have multiple ones. They want the same application on their handheld device that they have on their tablet, that they have on their laptop. And they need that portability. The diversity of the device types. In addition to that, you've got the platform is driving these new capabilities. I need the application to perform as well on my handheld device as it can on a laptop. I need it to be rendered as nicely on a tablet as it is on a TV. I have all those requirements, and I want to move the experience from one platform to the other. The commercial, I don't know if they show it in Israel, but they have one in the US where they show a guy watching a TV show or a movie on his iPhone when he comes in the house. He pushes a button, and it goes to his iPad. He pushes down his phone. And he pushes another button, and it jumps to his widescreen TV. That's actually not a theory. It works. The mobile computing and the mobile web is what enables all that to happen. The mobile web and web apps is what's the underlying platform. I had a discussion with a couple of people earlier today. If you're starting to write mobile apps today, write them in HTML5. That gives you device independence, that lets you run them on multiple platforms. There's a direct cost savings. When you only have to have one version of your application and you can deploy it on anybody, then that's a cost savings having to have 5 versions of your applications and maintaining that. So we would encourage you to do that. We have video built into HTML5, and I saw some sessions that are going to be covering that topic here. So I want to encourage you to go to those sessions. Games. We have Zynga, which is the world's largest game manufacturer, has announced that they are going to build all their games on HTML5, not on proprietary platforms moving forward. So we're also having conversations with people like Rovio around, they've adopted HTML5, but we want them to join the consortium. They haven't joined yet, but we're working on it. Bernard will not rest until he gets them. So we have all that. Social networking, getting those, all of those experiences are involved. This is a couple of interesting statistics. 58% of mobile web users get their content through browsers. They no longer go and get it through the newspaper or a hard copy. They get what they want. They don't get it through their TV. They get it through a browser experience. That's a pretty phenomenal sight. And the bottom one, analytics estimate the mobile web application platform will generate $2.6 billion. $2.6 billion. That's a big number. In service revenue by 2015. And for some of you, 2015 seems a long way away. For me, that seems like it's just around the corner. You know, it's going to be, especially when you consider we're not nearly that number now, that's a pretty steep ramp you're going to see over the next few years. We propose that our platform is the anchor that lets all that happen. Let's briefly talk about gaming. Regardless of what platform you're going to build the game on, we believe that you should do it because the web is driving that activity for you, and you should do it in HTML5. Regardless of how interactive the game is, regardless of how robust the package is, you want that to happen. We want that to happen. What are the priorities? When we talk to the gaming industry, they tell us things like they have to have the hardware go faster. There's nothing worse than a slow game on a phone or on a tablet. It's got to go faster. We talk to the chip manufacturers and they go, faster means hotter. How do we diffuse the heat? Faster means we got to make it bigger. How do we not do that? We've got a certain form factor they want to fit in. We're the forum where those companies can come together and have that conversation and put that business value together. Consistency of implementation I've already talked about. Offline cache. People want to be able to take a gaming experience and stop it at some point because they've got to do productive work, and freeze it and be able to get back to it. It would be nice if you could cache that offline somewhere and pull it back in when you're ready to use it. That's not a native function. We're working on those companies on how to provide that as well. A big point, the last two, identity management and points of interest. Identity management, I'm going to talk about more in a little bit. We've got a lot of work around security and privacy. but it's important to know who the person is that's playing a game. I have a son that's 10 years old, and I like when he's playing, when he goes online, and he's online a lot, I want to make sure that the games he's playing, there are only other 10-year-old boys playing that game, that there aren't predators hanging around those gaming rooms. I depend on identity management to do that. I also make sure he doesn't tell all of the statistics of who he is, because he's 10 years old and trusts the world, and I've had to explain to him that's not necessarily a healthy thing to be doing. But he wants to do that. Another thing that's coming out in the gaming world is points of interest. I'm in New York City, and I want to play a simulation game based on the streets that I'm on. Well, that means my device has to be able to figure out where I am and what's near me, and who else is playing that game that's in my neighborhood. That's an evolution that's only available because of the open web platform. This is because this is a technical audience, so I had to put up a list of technical things that we're doing. I can't explain most of these in detail, but Yesha or IL could do that for you. But these are specific things that are being affected by the gaming industry within W3C. Government data. We had an interesting meeting yesterday with the government about open data in Israel. Guess what? You're not the first ones to go down that street, nor will you be the last ones. Open government has been a huge initiative within W3C and within the open web platform. Why? Because you as citizens are telling the government, I own this data, I want access to it. They are saying, okay, we'll figure out how to do that. It's not an easy thing to do, because a lot of it's locked up in proprietary environments and built around old systems and old architectures. But digital access is a right, it's not a privilege. What is the priority? The web of data, and how do you link that data? It's not just making it open, but it's linking it, so that you know when you find Alan Bird in this record and you find out my age, then you can find out that these are my other benefits that are available to me, because all that data is linked together. It's not necessarily up to me to know that I got to go to this system, then that system, then that system. Although making it available so that I can go to those systems is definitely the first step. Getting that data integrated, again, security and privacy. I don't want everybody in the world to know, just because they find out my name, to be able to go and find out all the information about me. You know, I'm not even sure I want all my doctors to find out all the information about me. So we've got to, those are key issues for government. Again, web accessibility is a huge issue. If you're a government, you have to make sure that all your citizens have access to your data, regardless of any impediments they might have. And that's a challenge. We have been working on accessibility and incorporating it into all of our standards for 15 years. And it's a key part of HTML5. It's a key test area that we're going with for that in that space. These are some of the things that we've done. The process that W3C uses is very tried, and it starts generally with something called a workshop, and you can see some there that we've done. A workshop is open to the public to get your requirements. The requirement for attendance is sending us a position paper on why your view is relevant to the world. And once you do that, we have a very thorough discussion. That then becomes a working group. You see a working group listed here. In addition to that, within the government, we have active engagement with the US and European governments around what standards they need to be incorporating for their citizens to make things accessible. And the question they ask is, how do I do that? Our answer is, today, you do that through HTML5 and the open web platform and all the accessibility that we have in there. Social networking. This is a huge, huge area. We saw a Twitter tag and a LinkedIn area to go to. This is an area that's exploding. The social web has introduced an order of magnitude of people putting information on the web and putting it in different places. The challenge that the social web people have brought to us is, how do I, actually they haven't brought it to us. The challenge you have brought to us about by being consumers of the social web is how do I not have to enter this data 15 times because I'm on 15 social websites? And how do I make my profiles match up and link up? The social web companies have heard you and have come to us and said, how do we do that? We're helping them work through that issue of what is an identity and how does it carry forward and how does it carry through and how does that data tie together? Security and privacy and one web. So if you want to get Tim Berners-Lee really excited, you say, Tim, I was just in a country and they've decided the web doesn't work for them, so they're going to build their own web. That doesn't settle at all well with him. One web, one world. So we don't want a separate web for social networking. It all needs to be incorporated into the same world. And the issues are scalability and performance. How do I handle all this information? How do I handle all these websites? How do I handle all this personality? And provenance is a key notion around the social web, and we're doing active work in that. How do I know that the information that's out there is real? Right? There's nothing out there that says J. Allen Bird at blank is necessarily me. It could be anybody. And they can put up whatever information they want. How do you know that information is valid? So validating the provenance of data is a key factor for the open web platform moving forward. We've done a lot of work in this area. We've had a web tracking and a user privacy workshop that were very well attended, talking about this very issue around how do you protect an identity. We took an identity workshop, which was the step of trying to tie enterprise identities to social identities, to web identities. How do you make all that work? There's a huge industry I worked in at one point around identity and access management for the traditional world. That industry is now trying to figure out how do they address the web world, how do they address the social world. There's something in bigger, bolder font up there because I spent a little bit of time working on this. On November 8th through the 10th, W3C will be hosting the W3C Social Business Jam, which if anybody's ever worked on an IBM Jam, it's using their technology. We thank them for their support. And it's to get the ideas from around the world of how people want to handle social business. Social business is the notion that my people, the people working in my company, have social networking, and I can tell them not to use it all I want. And they'll say yes, and then when I leave the room, they pull out their Android phone and they start tweeting away. So how do I turn that into an asset to be used by the company, not a liability? As part of that event, Yesha is going to be a host for one of the segments and drive the conversation during part of that period. We would encourage all of you to go to w3.org, find the social jam on that site, and register to participate. It's 24 hours a day for 3 days. So you can come and go as you wish. You catch up with the thread that's in process as you wish. So I would encourage you to do that. It's all online, so it's English typing. So it doesn't matter if you're talking to somebody from China or Israel or the US or wherever, it's all going to be readable. And while this number at the bottom is a small number, 3.6% of all web data uses RDFA, that's a pretty big move. RDFA is part of the open web platform. Considering that a year ago the number was 0. Okay, we've already gotten to 3.6%, and we see that again being a pretty steep climb of getting data tagged that can be used and networked effectively. Security and privacy, I've kind of talked about it already. Privacy concerns have been on the web for years, making sure that who you're talking to is who they say they are, and making sure that my information isn't stolen. We're not doing too good a job of that because information is getting stolen every day. Identity theft is at an all-time high. So we got to figure out how to put security in place to slow that down. Electronic warfare, censorship, web shutdowns, denial of service attacks are all security and privacy concerns that we don't like. We believe that you and the community will help manage that risk. It's part of your world. And there's a growing consensus that our standards will help address those, and we're actively working on it. We're working with the Web ID people. It's actually halfway in, it's numeric numbers that I can read. I have 5 minutes, so let me speed up. Okay. So, the Open Web Platform, what haven't I said about it yet? Web pages, because of the Open Web Platform, web pages are more beautiful and interactive and intelligent than they've ever been. There's some really hot websites out there today that could not have been around 2 years ago. HTML5 provides a cross-browser interoperability. It wasn't easy to get Microsoft and Google and Apple and Mozilla and Opera and a couple of others to get in the room and agree that the implementation of HTML5 would be the same regardless of what browser you are on. They all have a proprietary interest in you being, what's a kind word? Of you being captivated, there's a good word, by their platform and not necessarily wanting a single platform to put your applications on. We've driven that activity. Video is a first-class citizen of the Open Web Platform. Having it be all text and not being able to handle video in a high-speed streaming mode doesn't make any sense. We've got a couple of challenges there relative to the codecs that we're trying to support, but we're working on that, and our membership is driving that. Tools for social networking. What do you get with the Open Web Platform? You get all these standards. We make this stuff. You get the value that it creates. You can have the leading edge by being a part of it and adopting it. You can be the first with this technology that simplifies your application and reduces your costs. You can transform your industry. You can have new and exciting ways to deliver financial packages, new and different ways to think about rental properties, interactive experiences that people have never thought of before. And HTML5 is the platform. You guys are all here because you care about HTML5. You're going to learn a lot about HTML5 during the course of the day. It is the same regardless of what platform you run it on. So you write your application once, you can deploy it many times and not worry about it. You don't have to worry about it. Do I have an Android version? Do I have an iOS version? Is it just for the phone? Is it for a tablet? Is it for a desktop? Your head blows up. Write it once. It's modular, we're all doing it, and you're seeing more and more applications. I was at an event in San Francisco a few weeks back at for GigaOM, and there were company after company that got up and said, we are writing all of our applications moving forward in HTML5. We're no longer sticking with proprietary operating environments. The benefits are pretty obvious. You have adaptability. You reduce the size of your application because a lot of it's in the standard and you don't have to handwrite around the things that are there. You don't have to have so many plugins about it. And you have your cross-information. If everybody's using the standard, you can share information more easily across sites. And if that data is tagged, it's even easier to find across sites. I've covered all these points. Royalty-free, again, that's a key point. You don't want to have to worry about what technology is in there that I'm going to have to charge 5 cents to my customers for every time I do it and keep track of that 5 cents and pay some governing body, like 4 or 5 that I could think of that I won't name. It's all there. It's all for free. And these are the standard technologies that you can see. There's a full list of them. No matter what area you're thinking about with your applications, no matter what the architecture is that you have, our standards are there. So when I say Open Web Platform, I'm talking about all these components. I'm not just talking about HTML5. It's the full suite of technology that enables you to deliver these values to your customers. This is a very good technical slide. I'm not a very good technologist. Fundamentally, the web client allows you to take anything from the web, access any device, and deliver the information that you want to deliver. If you want more details on this, I got lots of people I can hook you up with. Each component will follow its own timeline. HTML5 will be done in 2014. That means wrap it up. All right. But don't worry about that 2014 date. Start deploying it today. The difference between today and 2014 is 30,000 test cases that we will be running HTML5 through. If you want to make it 35,000, donate 5,000 test cases, and we'll incorporate them. Our test cases are all based on our member contributions. Adoption is the only thing I wanted to hit on here. ABI research says there will be 2.1 billion browsers on mobile devices by 2016. There's another billion number. Billion still impresses me. I don't know about you guys, but billion is still a pretty big number for me. Last but not least, the companies on the right-hand side of the screen have all joined W3C within the past 18 months. They've all joined because of the Open Web Platform. They represent the various industries that you see on the left-hand side of the screen. They represent a global market. We would like to have you join with us. How do you join? By working groups, business groups, community groups. We can explain those to you, either Bernard or I. We will be around all day. Attend a workshop. They've done several workshops here in Israel. They've had good participation. Lots of other events. W3.org tells you about that. And last but not least, let's help build a shared future, one standard at a time. Thank you for your time.